More and more androids show signs of deviancy. There are millions in circulation. If they become unstable, the consequences will be disastrous.
Hey everyone, we've played about 30 hours of Detroit Become Human here at FANDOM, and we've got some points that we want to raise.
Yeah, for those who don't know what Detroit Become Human is, this is the latest game from Quantic Dream. The studio is best known for Heavy Rain, which is an interactive story-based experience that kind of blew everyone away a little bit when it came out 8 years ago on PS3. This is the studio's first game on PS4, and now they've gone for a sci-fi setting. But has much changed?
Well, it hasn't really changed that much, has it? Because you still got the core kind of storytelling and gameplay mechanics that you had in Heavy Rain.
Yeah, just as Heavy Rain kind of really pushed the boundaries of what narrative and gaming can do, we all kind of expected Detroit might do the same thing.
And unfortunately, that kind of restrictive gameplay has carried over into Detroit as well.
Yeah, it definitely feels like sometimes this is a battle between being a video game and telling a brilliant story. Like, the actual gameplay here feels like an afterthought a lot of the time, doesn't it?
Yes, and where you do feel like you're making the choices to affect the game, it doesn't necessarily feel like you're playing the game in the way that you should be.
Yeah, and occasionally it feels like I don't want to be playing it, and that's not because I don't want to be playing a video game or I don't think video games can tell great stories. It's because the gameplay just feels like an annoying distraction. This is set in a beautifully realised, stunning 4K Detroit, which is, you know, neon lit and everything beautiful, and you just want to walk around it, but instead of actually giving you compelling environments and compelling places to explore, you just walk around the little box very slowly, interacting with things and occasionally triggering a conversation. It's just, it feels like a distraction and it takes away from the storytelling a bit, for me anyway.
Yeah, I do understand that if they were to make an open world Detroit, then it would slow the pace of the story down and you kind of wouldn't get through it as quickly as you do, and it might actually detract from how Quantic Dream want you to play the game.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, no one thought this would be a truly open world experience, but it would have been nice to have a bit more environmental storytelling. Obviously here the choices are what's key, but it would have been great if when you walked into an area you saw people talking or shouting and the world explained itself via gameplay as well as just the kind of cutscene events.
And it felt like that kind of stopped as you progressed through the game.
Yeah.
There was a lot of it weighted towards the start, but not really too much towards the end.
No, definitely, and it all feels like bits of these were afterthoughts. As I mentioned at the start, there was an Android protest you saw, which was a cool bit of background. You saw a guy playing guitar and he had a little sign saying music with the soul, human music. It was all little details that you go, okay, this is the world that I want to be in. But despite those issues, the main thing it really did nail was those decisions and those choices that you get to make.
Yeah, and you do really feel free there, but speaking of restrictions, we've got to talk about the camera, because that's one thing that was very, very frustrating throughout pretty much the whole of the gameplay. And while the camera does release during certain points while you're playing, it doesn't do it enough to make you feel like you're free to look where you need to look.
Yeah, and I kind of get that because the environments are restricted, but as well as having a restricted environment, it really felt like I was battling the camera, as you said. It was a real pain, because you have a main view on the right analog stick, and then you have this cinematic R1 view, which is totally useless most of the time. And it just added to the fact that the gameplay bits felt like an afterthought, a clumsy distraction from the storytelling, and it doesn't have to be like that. Games like Until Dawn, which, you know, all about your choices and all about player agencies, they use the gameplay sections to build up character, to build up tension, and it really works. And it's just a real shame that this still controls like a PS2 game and just doesn't feel like a modern gaming experience.
Yeah, it was almost like they teased us a little bit, wasn't it? It was like, here's this beautiful world, but nope, you're not going to be able to look at it.
It's shut. You can't come in.
Closed today.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the NPCs as well. There was a time when I was playing when I needed to go into the kitchen to look for a clue, and I couldn't because Lieutenant Hank was standing there and there was a police officer just on the outside. I actually had to restart the game to get back to that point.
Yeah, it's those kind of things. I mean, that's annoying and frustrating anyway. You would have hoped that in a game world this small, there shouldn't be that kind of many bugs because there's not really many things for you to do. But it wasn't just when the game broke that it was annoying. Sometimes you'd be tasked with just walking around a small environment. Either the clues are blatantly obvious or you have to get somewhere in a hurry, but there's no run button. So you're just walking around very slowly and it just completely pulls you out of the experience if you're meant to be on an urgent mission somewhere and you're just lumbering around slowly in a room.
Yeah, I had times when I had characters saying, hurry, hurry, and I couldn't because you literally cannot run.
But despite our many issues, the one thing Quantic Dream really has improved upon is the sheer scope and ambition of the interweaving narratives.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible feat, isn't it? When you kind of see the first branch of the story, you think, wow, that's cool. And then you realise it's actually it's going to get almost exponential from there. And what you do at some points during the start of the game can literally affect what your ending is going to be when you finish.
And what's really cool is, as you alluded to there, is the fact that you can actually see it. Like at the end of each chapter, it zooms out and you see a flow chart with each individual choice and how many branching choices came off of each one. And that's going, oh man, I didn't even realise that tiny choice I made there could have opened up a whole different story path for that character. And that's really impressive.
What's really cool is that you can see what decisions other players have made as well. And it's got a kind of little world symbol and it says, this percentage of people in the world chose this decision. So you get a kind of personality test out of it.
You can see which friends you really want to avoid when you go out. And it was interesting because we were comparing notes and we both had totally different outcomes for our characters, didn't we?
Yeah, so I played the game in a very strategic way of, I'm going to play as Mr. Nice. So every single decision that I made was almost like a compassionate choice. So if there was a choice to shoot somebody, I wouldn't shoot them. And if there was a choice to save somebody, then I would save them.
Whereas I went in with no fixed agenda and just kind of went with my gut and thought, I'm going to make what decisions feel right in the moment. What was interesting is while we compared the decisions we made, while a lot of the core decisions seemed to be the same, it was the incidental details, or what we thought were incidental, that actually proved to be the most distinct and have caused the most changes, didn't they?
Yeah, very interesting. And after seeing pretty much every ending that Detroit has to offer now, I feel like I was kind of punished for making those moral decisions.
Yeah, nice guys do finish last, at least in Detroit. So it's definitely not a perfect game, it's got its problems, but it's hard to oversell how impressive this choice-based system is. Here each player has a huge amount of say over what happens to the character. Almost every conversation they have has a really tangible and lasting impact on the story in the game world, and that's really cool.
Yeah, so it's got a lot of replay value. You do want to go back and see how those decisions do affect the end of your game. Is it worth 50 quid? I don't know.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to say, while I'm really impressed with storytelling, I still think other games have done it better. I feel like for £50, it's probably not really worth your money because it's not until the last few hours of the game where you really get to see decisions pay off. And quite frankly, I don't think these first 10 hours are the best use of your gaming time.
So that's what we thought. Let us know what you think when you play through and hit us up on our socials at GetFandom.